Watch
It's
this.
easier for you to say that you believe in God when you think that there's still time for God to perform a miracle. But as that time runs out and as the window closes, sadly, so do most people's expectations of what God can do. The reality is that most people's faith has a set timer on how long they're willing to believe in God for something. That's why Jesus was so discouraged by the people when Lazarus died. When Jesus arrived at the funeral, he was met by the same words from both Mary and Martha. In John 11, verse 21, Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And in John 11, verse 32, Mary, overwhelmed by grief, fell at his feet and she said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And it says, when Jesus saw her weeping and those who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. Now, when most people read this, they interpret Christ's emotions as sadness, when actually he wasn't sad. He was angry. But why would Jesus be angry with people crying at a funeral? I'll tell you why. It was because their faith had a set timer for how long they were able to believe in what Jesus could do. And when Lazarus died, that timer ran out. Jesus was greatly troubled by them because they kept referring to what he could have done for their brother while he was still alive, instead of believing in what Jesus could still do now that he was there with them despite Lazarus being dead. That's why 4 days earlier, when news first reached Jesus' ears about Lazarus' sickness, Jesus made the intentional decision to delay his going. And when Lazarus died, Jesus told his disciples in John 11, verse 15, "For your sake, I am glad that I'm not there, so that you might believe." So Mary and Martha went wrong. If Jesus had been there, Lazarus would have still been alive. But more importantly than that, what Jesus wanted was for all of them to believe in him even after it looked like all hope was gone. That's why Jesus wept. Because if people lacked the faith to believe that he could resurrect Lazarus, then how could they possibly believe that God would resurrect him when he died on the cross? This is why before Jesus called Lazarus back to life, he first prayed to the Father, not for himself, but on account of all the people standing around, that through this mighty miracle that he was about to perform, they would know that God sent him into the world. Because by Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead 4 days after he died, he was giving them tangible evidence for them to believe that God would also resurrect him. I don't know who needs to hear this, but the message that I have for somebody today is that God answers prayers, even when it looks like all hope is gone.